Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are on a serious mission to completely master Chapter 1 of your economics syllabus, Development. I'm so thrilled to be your guide on this journey today. We're going to build your conceptual mastery completely from the ground up, and we'll be doing it using a really logical, step-by-step zoom-out approach. We'll literally start by looking at what development means to an individual person, and then we're going to gradually zoom all the way out to look at states, entire countries, and finally, the sustainability of our planet itself. So get ready to view the world through the eyes of an economist. Let's do this. Here's a quick look at our blueprint for today. We're covering the meaning of development, income versus other goals, comparing states and countries, public facilities and HDI, the sustainability of development, and finally, we'll be decoding the chapter exercises.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the meaning of development.
Okay, let's start at ground level. I want you to think for a second about what progress actually means in your own daily life. Is it getting better grades? Having a bit more freedom? Maybe finally getting that new phone? The truth is, development means something totally different to every single person. Look at this comparison straight out of your textbook. On one side, imagine a landless rural laborer. What are their goals going to be? Probably more days of regular work, better daily wages, and maybe a good local school so their kids can get an education and perhaps become leaders in their village. Now contrast that with the youth from a rich urban family. Their basic needs, already met. So their goals shift towards getting as much freedom as their siblings or being able to make personal choices, like pursuing higher studies abroad. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is this. People's developmental goals depend entirely on their current life situations and what they personally aspire to achieve.
Now this builds into a really massive conceptual shift. It's not just that people have different goals. The catch is that often people have conflicting goals. What is seen as wonderful, positive development for one person might actually be a complete disaster or even totally destructive for somebody else.
Let's use this real-world example of a demonstration meeting on the Narmada River to really understand these conflicting goals. Imagine you are a big industrialist. To you, development means building a massive dam to generate tons of electricity to run your factories, right? But wait, what about the Adivasis, the indigenous people actually living in that Narmada Valley? To them, that exact same dam means their homes will be completely submerged, their agricultural land destroyed, and they will be entirely displaced. The industrialist's dream literally becomes the Adivasi's nightmare. It perfectly proves that development isn't automatically a positive thing for everyone involved.
Moving on to Section 2, Income vs. Other Goals.
So, we've established that goals differ. But once basic survival needs are met, what do people actually want? Is money the only thing that matters? Well, if we look closely at human desires, we find a mix. Yes, of course, people want regular work, better wages, and decent crop prices. These are material goals, and they rely heavily on income. But, that is just not the whole picture. People equally crave non-material goals. Things like equal treatment, freedom, a secure environment, and the respect of others. They deeply resent discrimination. Just think about the role of your best friends in your life. You literally can't put a price tag on true friendship. So while money buys material goods, the true quality of our lives depends so much on these non-material things. Sometimes, living in a safe environment with a respectful society is way more important than just having a high salary.
All right, Section 3, comparing states and countries.
Now we're zooming out to the macro level. We've talked a lot about individuals, but how in the world do we mathematically measure if a whole nation is actually developing? Well, for comparing entire countries, just looking at total income isn't very useful because countries have drastically different population sizes. So we use averages. Per capita income, which is also called average income, is simply the total income of a country divided by its total population. It's actually a lot like a classroom. If you want to know how well a class did on a math test, you don't look at the massive combined score of all 40 students, right? You look at the class average. This simple formula makes the underlying math of comparing vast nations completely intuitive.
And that brings us to how the World Bank classifies the globe using this purely money-based criterion. According to the 2024 data in the World Development Reports, countries with a per capita income of US $66,500 or more per year are classified as rich or developed countries. On the flip side, countries at US $2,300 or less are low-income countries. So, you might be wondering, where does India stand right now? Well, India currently falls into the low-middle income category with a per capita income of just about US $11,000 per annum. But hold up, there is a major flaw with just looking at the average income. And this cartoon from your textbook exposes it perfectly. Take a look. In the top scenario, we see a country with no rich and no poor. Everyone shares the work equally, making 4 chairs for 4 people. But look at the bottom scenario. 4 poor workers are making all the chairs, but 1 extremely rich person is taking them all, while the rest are left squeezing onto just 1. Here's the crazy part. Even if both of these countries have the exact same average income on paper, the reality of living in them is vastly different. Averages completely hide severe wealth inequality within a society. It tells us the size of the pie for sure, but it doesn't tell us how that pie is being distributed.
Which brings us to Section 4, Public Facilities and HDI.
This is where we make a fascinating pivot in our masterclass, looking at a multi-dimensional view. I want to pose a mystery to you. Is having a high per capita income enough to guarantee a good quality of life? Let's look at this data plot twist comparing Indian states. Check out Haryana and Kerala. Haryana actually has a significantly higher per capita income than Kerala. So if money were the only measure of development, Haryana should be the best place to live, hands down. But look at the next columns. The infant mortality rate in Haryana is 28, compared to just 6 in Kerala. That means Haryana, the richer state, has nearly 3 times the number of infant deaths. Kerala also boasts a much higher literacy rate at 94%, compared to Haryana's 82%. This genuinely surprises a lot of students.
To truly grasp this, we need to define infant mortality rate, and we need to do it with deep empathy. INR indicates the number of children that die before reaching their first birthday out of every 1,000 live births in a given year. I really want you to pause and imagine the human pain behind these numbers. Think of the absolute joy a family feels when a baby is born, and the unimaginable heartbreak if that child doesn't make it to their first birthday. This proves a very harsh reality. Having money in your pocket cannot buy survival or basic health.
So why exactly does a richer state like Haryana lag behind Kerala in these crucial areas? Because individual income simply cannot buy public goods. Your personal money cannot buy you a pollution-free environment. It can't ensure that unadulterated medicines are available in your local market, and it certainly can't single-handedly protect you from an outbreak of infectious diseases. For those things, you need the whole community to take preventive steps together. And this beautifully illustrates exactly why public facilities, things like government schools, public hospitals, and safe drinking water, are absolutely crucial for society's true development.
Realizing that income alone is a totally inadequate measure, the United Nations Development Program, or UNDP, created a much more holistic approach, the Human Development Index, or HDI. Instead of the World Bank's super narrow income-only focus, the HDI measures development across 3 dimensions: the educational levels of the people, their health status, like life expectancy, and their per capita income. It looks at the complete human experience, which makes a lot more sense, right?
And when we use this holistic measure, we uncover a rather shocking truth hidden in your textbook's data. Just look at this comparison for the year 2023. Sri Lanka, a tiny neighboring country, is vastly outperforming India. Sri Lanka's gross national income is higher, its life expectancy is significantly higher at 77.5 years compared to India's 72, and its overall global HDI rank is a very respectable 89, while a massive country like India sits at 130. It's a really powerful reminder that true national development is about investing heavily in human health and education, not just industrial output.
Let's move to Section 5, the sustainability of development.
We're going to zoom out one final time to look at the future of our entire planet. What actually happens when our current, super rapid economic growth ends up destroying tomorrow's resources? Take a look at this stark visual from your textbook. It shows deep groundwater extraction. Now, groundwater is a renewable resource. It gets replenished by rain. But if we draw out more water for agriculture and cities than the rain can replace, we are overusing it. The terrifying reality is that a vast portion of the country is depleting its groundwater reserves at an alarming rate. If we drain the aquifers completely dry, how will future generations even survive? And this applies to non-renewable resources like crude oil too, which simply cannot be replenished once they're exhausted.
To perfectly capture the absolute essence of sustainable development, your textbook provides this iconic mic drop quote. The Earth has enough resources to meet the needs of all, but not enough to satisfy the greed of even one person. Development that relies on greedy over-extraction isn't true development at all, guys. It's just borrowing from our children's future without their permission.
And finally, Section 6, Chapter Exercises Decoded. Okay, let's transition into some active recall. Let's apply everything we've just learned and actually tackle a couple of the critical textbook exercises together. Let's look at this classic question. How is the UNDP's criterion different from the World Bank's? Walk through the logic with me. The World Bank uses a very narrow, one-dimensional metric, right? Per capita income.
It essentially just says more money equals more development. But the UNDP uses a holistic, multidimensional metric, the Human Development Index. It argues that while income is absolutely important, you literally must also measure education and health status to determine true, meaningful progress.
Now, let's work through this math problem step by step, whiteboard style. We know the average income of 4 families is 5,000 rupees. To find the total income, we just multiply the average by the number of families. So 4 times 5,000 equals a total of 20,000. Now we add up the income of the 3 families we already know. 4,000 plus 7,000 plus 3,000, which equals 14,000. To find that 4th family's income, we just subtract their combined income from the total. 20,000 minus 14,000 equals 6,000. The 4th family earns Rs 6,000. Great job locking in your understanding of how averages work in economics.
And that, my friends, brings us to the end of our masterclass. True development is not just about having a fatter wallet. It's about building a better, healthier, and much more equitable quality of life for everyone without sacrificing the earth for tomorrow. You are now fully equipped to view the world through an economist's eyes, understanding that progress is complex, multi-layered, and deeply human. So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought. What does sustainable development look like for your future? Thank you so much for joining me. Keep on learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.